Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Wendy Dillard here. Today is Monday, June the 25th, 2018, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, your second Daily Dose of Happy for the day and first Daily Dose of Happy for the week for the two episodes we do today. That's the way it works every day. We get two of them every day. And I know that it helps both us and the listeners, Wendy, because this morning, Tom and I had a call. One of our listeners called in. It was great. So it doesn't happen very often, but it's just like that one reinforcement. Yeah, people are really listening. They're liking it. They're feeling happier for it. He even said that. It was one of our authors, actually, Mike McGowan, who's one of the contributors to the book, Your Daily Dose of Happy, that we just put out. And he was really enthusiastic about what we were talking about this morning. So onward and upward. So let's see. How are you doing? What's happening in your life? Has it been a good weekend? I hope you had a good one.
Yes, it's been a good weekend. And, today was my first day back to my day job. And interestingly, I've noticed that for the last maybe 3 or 4 times I've taken a vacation, when I've come back on Monday, in the past, it used to take me 3 whole days and working lots of overtime to catch up from taking 5 days off. And now I've noticed for the last 3 or 4 times I've taken a vacation, it's literally been cut in half. Like by the end of the first day, I just have a little bit left to do. And then by middle of the second day, I'm like caught up.
Wow.
So somehow it's only taking a day and a half to catch off from the same 5 days off. And you had commented before the show that perhaps that's law of attraction taking care of that for me.
Yeah.
And when you first said that, I went, well, I don't really know how that's possible because there's still the same number of, well, actually, I have more people on my team I support, and we have more clients that we support. So everything's gotten bigger. And then I thought about it, and I went, perhaps I'm getting a fewer emails to have to respond to because it was usually about, if I'm gone for a week, maybe 350 emails I'd have to catch up on. And I'm noticing it's kind of down to around 270. So that's gotten less. And my thought that I had was, you know what, maybe because I have shifted my thinking and what I focus on, perhaps what I would call some of the redundant emails or emails that like somebody on my team could have figured out on their own. Maybe they're figuring it out on their own.
How about
and
that?
I'm not getting so many of those emails because lots of times I'd get emails where somebody asked me a detailed question and it might take me up to an hour to research it. And then I'd get back to them and they would have said, oh, I already figured it out. But they didn't bother to tell me, and I'm wondering if, because I don't have as many questions, like things that I have to do deep research on. And so I'm wondering if those, like the universe is just helping people figure that out so that doesn't come to me.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that could very well be what's going on. And kind of to tag along on that idea, over the weekend, I think I started to really connect more to using the universal manager to be my delegate, to work on my behalf. I had a serious conversation with my friend Rhonda on Friday, and I don't mean serious like, oh, big, heavy duty. I mean like, we like really get down and dirty. We like to get into our business and figure stuff out. And if something's not working, let's go find out what's going on. Where's our thinking? How can we shift? And so we had a really good powwow on Friday, just short period of time, but it was powerful. And so out of her and my conversation, I kind of went back into, my Project X business and started asking, so how am I not looking at this in a way that's really being productive for me? And, that was just a question I threw out. But what I noticed was over the course of the next 24 hours, I literally cannot tell you all the different resources that changed my thinking. Because they were flying. I mean, I'd read an email and there was something that popped. I'd watch a video and I'd go, whoa. I'd feel led to pick up a book and I'd just open it what I thought was at random but wasn't. And I'd read a paragraph that just made me go, holy Toledo. And I mean, it was all day long like that. And then I had a massage on Saturday. And while I'm on the massage table, I always start out with, okay, like spirit guide me as to what I can focus on, because I know when I'm in the deepest relaxation with my body, my mind goes into the depths of all sorts of wonderful places. It's where I get my most and best imagination and visualization. And so I went from, I think I'd mentioned this maybe on one or two podcasts ago, where, I have like a business idea that I always thought was like at the end, meaning like I have to do some things first and I have to develop my business in a certain way now before I can get to what I call the end game.
Mm-hmm.
And the guidance I was given is there's no need to wait. And I was like, okay, fine. And so when Rhonda and I were talking, she said, well, you have an empire to build.
Oh.
And I'm like, I do. And she didn't know that that's a word I've used for a long time, but just to myself, that I'm building an empire. And so somehow through that 24 hours of all this tumultuous, in a positive way, new understanding, what I recognized was I have been playing way too small. I have been limiting myself in what's possible. And I kind of blew the lid off of it. And I went, okay, it's time for the empire now. I don't have to do it in a special sequence. It might come in that way, but I'm now picturing it all as done in the bigness of the empire. And while I was on the massage table, what kind of came into focus for me was everything about this empire will be brought to me by law of attraction. Either because I'm bathing it and focusing on it, and therefore my broadcast brings it to me, or because of bathing it and focusing on it, I'll get guided to take an impulse where I'll go to somebody else, but they'll be the perfect match for me. And I just have really spent a lot of time focusing on how law of attraction is a matching mechanism. And what I hadn't been focusing on is who I want to match up with. I've been focusing on my fear of not matching up with who I want to match up with. Does that make sense?
It does. And in fact, as you were talking, I'm thinking, if it weren't for the fact that the title was already taken, I think we should probably rename this episode The Empire Strikes Back.
Or The Empire Strikes.
Yeah, right.
Because it's not coming back. I'm going forward.
That's true. That's true.
But it's really exciting, because I'll tell you one phrase that came to me while I was on the massage table, which was, okay, the people I want to attract are people who want the best. Like they're the kind of people that don't think twice about paying $1,100 for a designer handbag. The people I want to attract are the people that are looking for the best quality of whatever it is. Like, even if somebody told them that a Mercedes engine of a particular, trust me, I'm making this up, but if somebody said that the engine of a Mercedes was just as powerful as the engine of the Rolls Royce, they would say, no, I want the Rolls Royce, it's better. Even if a mechanic said it's the exact same engine put in both cars, the person I want to connect with is the one that says, no, I want the Rolls Royce because I want the best. Mm-hmm. Not only the best, but the perception of the best. Mm-hmm. I want the best. And so I was thinking about that. Now, last week my concern was, how do I connect to, and how will people find me, that are willing to pay the cost that I have for some of my services.
I remember.
And it completely changed. Like, I'm not there anymore. Now I'm connecting to, I am the best. And I will say that very boldly. And if somebody wants to prove me wrong, be my guest, because I would love to have a coach that's better than me. I just haven't found one yet. Because when I go looking for a coach, they got to be really on their game, because they got to know more than me. And so I have coaches that I work with as friends, and they're kind of like alongside of me, but I've yet to meet a coach that has more expertise than I do. And so that being the case, I feel very confident when a coaching client calls me. Sometimes they'll start out with, well, do you think you can help me? And I'll be honest with you, Walt, they don't even have to start telling me what it is they need. I already know the answer is yes. I've never not been able to help somebody that has come to me, ever. I have a 100% track record. So that being said, I want people who are looking for someone who is the absolute best, that they are looking for quality coaching in a way that it's not done by, quote, the average coach.
So is this phrase going to end up on your website at some point? I mean, the phrase, I'm the best, or some variation on it, is that going to end up on your website?
Doesn't need to be, because it's done energetically.
Oh, okay.
It's done energetically, because what I'm telling you is the internal process that I had new awareness of. And yes, it may sound like I'm boasting right now to our listeners, but I'm not boasting to sell anybody on anything. I'm saying this is what came to me. This is how this information was processed through my understanding. And it's the energetics of what I'm broadcasting that determines what comes to me.
This is true.
And so I started focusing on people like myself who want the best quality. I mean, like, I have a plumber that I think is the absolute best plumber on the planet. He doesn't charge premium prices. I mean, he charges more than, your run-of-the-mill kind of plumber, but his expertise is like off the chain. I can tell by the way he explains things to me. His ability to identify something, like as to what the problem is so fast. And his ability to fix something is so quick. So even if he charges them maybe a little bit more than the average plumber, the fact he does it so fast, I don't feel like I'm getting ripped off at all. And when I leave, I always think to myself, not that I want a whole bunch of plumbing problems, but I love working with Larry the plumber. He is so fabulous. He is like premium plumbing services to me. And whenever I look for somebody that I'm wanting to work with, I always look for somebody who's like the best in their field.
Well, I remember that was part of the story that you told for the book, or one of the stories that you told for the book, when you were looking for a car. You wanted a car that made a statement. And that's really along the same lines. You're looking for people who are always making statements, and they're saying, yes, I do want the best.
And I don't want it just because someone has a perception of being the best. I want to know that when they do work with me, they really are providing the best skill. And that's a match for who I am. And what's so fascinating is how the universe brought this information to me, was like showing me who my clients are and the characteristics they have. And then it was like a bait and switch, because at the end, when I was so pumped and excited about my clientele that I'm now going to match with, it's like my inner being said, and you'll match with them because that's who you are. That's the matching piece.
Sure.
I went, oh, wow, that's like so incredibly cool. Because I'll be honest, I mean, I know I'm good and I know I'm the best, but I wasn't focused on that piece. Because what I have found being in business is a lot of times why, like, entrepreneurs have a really hard time identifying, how they can talk about themselves or what they're really good at, is because what they're good at comes so natural to them. They don't think of it as a skill that they should even market, or that's even marketable. That's
true. I mean, I ran into that a lot when I was helping. For a while, I was doing marketing services for local retailers and local businesses and service businesses and so forth. And over and over and over again, the first stumbling block that I would run into with them is that they had no idea what differentiated themselves from their competition. And in some cases, I mean, it was actually merited, but in other cases, they were actually pretty good at it, and yet they didn't understand how they differentiated themselves. They didn't understand what made them better. They just said, whoa, I just kind of am. They didn't think about it. They didn't focus on it. It wasn't part of their daily thought process. So, I mean, what you're describing sounds actually very normal. It sounds like what most people end up doing in terms of not being aware of it.
And this is why I think it was so clever of how the universe delivered this information to me. First, I got built up into the awareness of who my ideal client is and who can really afford my services, and that they're people that really want the best. And so I wasn't even thinking at the time about, oh, that's because I'm the best. I really was focused on they want the best. And then there was this flip side to the messaging that came to me, which is, that's how you match with them, Wendy, because you are the best. And I went, oh, wow. Because I almost think that if the universe would have said, well, you're really good, you're the best, and so you're going to match with the best, I probably would have gone, whatever. Like, I don't know that would have stuck. But this was fascinating. And so now, to kind of go to another piece, last week, I was being a bit frustrated because I had found what I call like the culprit thought process, or the thoughts that were behind me not matching. But I couldn't quite find, well, what is it I do want to focus on? And I was like really frustrated and like kind of getting ticked off at my inner being, going, hey, I want an answer. I mean, like, I really want an answer. Come on, give it to me. And, I was a little bit rough, and, my inner being said, brush your teeth, get dressed, and go shopping. I was like, okay, I know that's my inner being's way of saying you need some distraction so you can get into the receiving mode and receive the answer. I'm like, okay, fine. But here's what I got over the weekend, which was really profound. The question that I was asking could not be answered because it was a faulty question. Because what erupted for me this weekend was that I was playing so small. I was just looking for the clients that can come to me for this one product offering that I currently have on the table. And as the weekend unfolded, I saw that it was appropriate for me to be positioning myself from a matching perspective for my entire empire. And it's like the law of attraction, and my inner being was saying, we're not going to give you an answer on something so small that you're asking for, because you've already outgrown that, and you're so much bigger than what you've been willing to acknowledge. And so what happened was I had to have the whole vision of Project X expanded like 50 times its size. And then the answer started coming in so fast and furious, it blew my mind.
Wow.
And I joked with Rhonda, because I said, Rhonda, I think 2, maybe 3 times in the 3+ years we've known each other, you've asked me the same question. And it's, are you playing too small? And my answer has always been yes. And I said, you know what, Rhonda, I don't ever want to hear that question again, because I want to know that I'm no longer playing too small, that I am playing big for the size of who I want to be and the size of all that I came here to manifest. And so I'm really thrilled that like this entire project is going to be brought to me by the law of attraction effortlessly. I believe that's what my ultimate desire has been, and I didn't know how to articulate it. I want an effortless manifestation, and that manifestation is going to be my empire. And it's not because I want to make money. And yes, I will make a lot of money, but it's not for the purpose of making money. One of the videos I listened to this week just really impacted, or it was a huge impact upon me, which is I feel ethically obligated to put what I have to share in front of anybody who has ears to hear and eyes to see, because I know that it can transform their life. And if I'm not passionate about the thing that I do, then there's no point. Because to me, I'm so passionate about transforming lives. And if somebody is ready to have their life transformed, I want to be positioned to be right where they need to be so that we can match. And what I have been doing for many years has been playing so small that when people are even coming into my sphere, I wasn't positioned and ready to match them. And now I am, or at least now I'm moving in that direction.
It's funny, as you were talking there, I had a song, an old song, running through my head. And the original meaning of the song is on a different topic entirely, which you'll recognize as soon as I tell you what it is. But most of the lyrics match up with what you're talking about in a really interesting way. The song is by Carol Sager and Marvin Hamlish and sung by Carly Simon for the James Bond movie The Spy Who Loved Me. And you listen to the lyrics of that one. Nobody does it better. Makes me, I'm going to modify a couple words. Makes me feel glad for the rest. Nobody does it half as good as you. Baby, you're the best.
I remember that song.
Yeah. A little further on the nobody does it better, though sometimes I wish someone could. Nobody does it quite the way you do. Why'd you have to be so good?
I do like those words.
I mean, it's amazing how appropriate they are if you just, kind of transition it over to what we're talking about.
Well, and so obviously I've just told my story. This has been what has occurred for me in the last weekend and, as I've been coming to this big moment, but opening it up to those who are listening and how could this apply to your life? Is there an area that you've been working on for so long that you're still looking for just dribbles and drabs? And I'll ask you the question.
It's a good question.
You, Walt, and everybody. By chance, are you playing too small?
Sure.
Is there a vision that you have within yourself that is so big, but you almost feel afraid to say it out loud or to dare to dream that it can come to you now because you've wanted it for so long and it seems so big and it feels as though your resources are so small or finite that you can't possibly make it happen?
Oh, of course. I think actually my experience is an ongoing development toward allowing myself to have and believe just that, to draw it into myself, and that's actually part of my journey is learning to do that, learning to allow myself to dream big, allow myself to really dream the dreams that are my deep down dreams, and they have been emerging the last few days. I mean, they pop up every once in a while and test the air a little bit, and I notice it particularly that they pop up when I'm being challenged to see if I can maintain my positive demeanor that I try to maintain in the midst of crises and chaos that tends to sometimes happen when you're in the gardening business. But I've had a lot of practice doing it, and in the process, I think I am kind of getting glimpses of it now. Glimpses of that that pretty big dream that I have. But have I gotten there yet? Have I gotten to the point where I can let it all in yet? I can't say I've gotten there yet.
Well, and it comes in as it comes in.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to be open to more than what you were willing to be open to before, then it's kind of like you widen the spout. Oh, I just had this great connection. Remember last week I told you that I had my internet speed upgraded from 25 to 75?
Yep.
And I said, I love to play with metaphors.
Mm-hmm.
And even though on a physical level, it was something I needed to do because my speed was too low. But I said, I know that I have tripled my bandwidth for receiving at faster speeds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I believe what I've just shared is connected to that.
Absolutely.
That was a metaphor, that was messaging, letting me know that things are now coming to me faster, and I've now opened my receptivity so more can come at a faster rate.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
And so like even one of the things I was playing with Rhonda is I was just going over something with my email list. And I just said, it's just frustrating me because I go to start doing something and I realize, but before I do this, I have to do this and this. So then I jump to that and then I go, well, really, I need to do this other thing first. And I said, it's gotten to the point that I can't just do what I want to do because there's like 7 steps and each one is going to take quite a bit of time to do. And she said, well, do you have to do it? She said, at what point is the administrative work something that's really keeping you from doing the big empire work? And I went, wow, that's a good question. And I said, and I was being honest. I said, I have two ways I'm looking at this. One, yes, I'm ready to delegate. But the question is, well, how do I pay them? Because I need to have more money to pay them. And then the second question is, I've been an executive admin all my life. I love administrative stuff. So I actually enjoy doing the very thing that I'm thinking about delegating, which is why I tend to end up doing it, because it's something I kind of really enjoy doing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And so on the first level, where it had to do with, okay, can you delegate? And I say, but I have no money. She says, well, what if you set out the intention that you're going to attract the perfect person? And she and I named all these criteria. And for right now, they're willing to do it in exchange for coaching. And I went, huh.
Nice.
Now, I've had that thought probably going 10, 12, 15 years back. But that many years back, I didn't think that what I had to offer, because I didn't value it yet to the level that I do now, I thought it was like saying, well, I have 3 pretzels. Will you exchange it for 3 pretzels? Because it's all I have. You know, something that someone would go, why the heck would I make that kind of an exchange?
Yeah, I hear you. Right.
And when she said it the other day, I went, oh my God, the level of what I'd be offering in exchange is like mega huge.
Nice shift.
And if that's not interesting to them, they're not the right match for me.
True.
Not right now.
Yep.
You know? And I went, oh, that feels really good. And then on the second level, you know, where I was talking about, but I like to do admin work, I said, well, I'll just have to sit with that and see what comes up. Well, Sunday morning, I jump out of bed with this brilliant idea of how to work on the admin work and make it fun, where it wasn't drudgery, where I made a list of all the things that needed to be done. And I already did one piece of it, which actually was a big piece. And now I have the clarity as to what other pieces can be done. And I went, I don't have a deadline on this. I can do this the way I want to do it. But it will get me into writing. It'll get me into doing, because I have a free ebook that are the 10 tips for getting the law of attraction to work in your favor. And so, you know, I don't go into huge detail of the 10 tips, but for people who want to get on my email list, I'm going to give them that free ebook. And then my subsequent emails to them will be expounding on each one of those 10 tips, where I give it to them in greater detail. And I'm not selling anything. This is just me giving away my content for free because I love to do it. I am a teacher to the core of my being. And I want to begin to build a relationship with people so that I can be giving them what they desire. And who knows, from within that group, there may be somebody who is exactly looking to work with someone like me.
Sure.
You know, but I know it's like I don't know the whole end game for why I want a powerful email list. But I feel very powerfully led to do so. Like there's something in it. And right now, I just want to be a giver. And if they want to be receivers, they can have all that I'm giving. And at some point later, I may be asking for something, but I don't know what.
One step at a time, really.
Yeah, but it was so fascinating because something that for the whole of last week, I felt like I was avoiding, like the plague. Sunday, I had such a level of clarity, like if I want to delegate this, that's my choice. And if I want to do it, line up with it and be happy. And I did, and I was, and it was fun. But,
understandable. I mean, that's one of the things that's amazing about this process. And I've really enjoyed learning from you how your process works and trying to explore how to incorporate it in a way that works well for me into my process. But the simple fact that you allow these various, I'll call them limited beliefs because that's what they really are, limited beliefs to come up, and then you move through them as quickly as you do. I'm in awe of that. I mean, for me, well, first of all, it takes me months, years sometimes to come up with a limited belief. And then when it does come up, it's like, I don't know what to do with this. And so I just kind of, wait for an answer to come at some point. You flow through them. I mean, you just flow through really quickly. So
see, now you just were the best advertising I could ever have for why somebody wants to hire me.
There you go.
Because why would you want to spend a year plus trying to figure something out when I can probably do it with you in a session or two.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because that's my expertise.
Yeah.
I identify limiting beliefs.
Very cool.
Period. Yeah.
By the way,
I also take you to the flip side, but that's always step one. We got to figure out what's not working for you and what's in your vibrational mix that continues to cause a person to keep getting results they don't want.
Now, there is one thing that I do know that is working, and that is people subscribing to our podcast. So I just want to take a moment to talk about that, because we know just from the numbers that a lot of people subscribe, hundreds of people subscribe, and they listen to a lot of episodes. On average 30 to 45 a month, and that's for everybody, including, the people who stop by once or twice. So there are some people who, I think they're going back into the archives and listening for months going back. But the bottom line is people are listening in huge amounts. And we had the direct input today, the direct feedback, if you will, from Mike when he called in this morning. That kind of reinforced it, which is, he just loves listening to it. He said he gets happy just listening to it. And I feel like, yes, we're reaching our goal. We want this to be a daily dose of happy, and people are feeling it. And that's why they keep listening. So all this boils down to one thing. If you're a new listener, if you're somebody who hasn't subscribed yet, just take a moment to do it. It's right on the homepage of our website, loatoday.net. The instructions are right there. It takes about a minute. It's free. Doesn't cost you a penny. And boy, oh boy, does it make a difference in your life. And plus, it increases our subscribers too. So, just take a moment and subscribe, and then, share with your friends that you did. You'll be glad you did. Just wanted to get that in there, Wendy.
Well, and the repetition of listening to our podcast, whether you listen to the same one over and over, or you listen to multiple ones of, with different shows, different dates, different co-hosts, different topics, it's all a matter of creating a practice in your life of bringing in a positive environment, something that will speak positively into your world. Repetition, of course, is the mother of real learning and creating a discipline.
True.
And doing a lot of it, like binge listening, I call immersion. And that's also another one of the key factors of how you shift your life in a positive way. And one of the things I did this weekend is one of the gurus that I listened to, he did this special videotape. It was about 30 minutes or so. And I listened to it and I was like, whoa, there's some stuff on here. It wasn't brand new to me, but it validated some things I'd been thinking about that I hadn't given enough attention to. I didn't know that it really was that important. But having this guy that I really trust say it, I was like, oh, that's impactful. I'm like, I want to listen to this again. Now, this was one of these videos that he put out in his email, and he said this will only be available for the next 48 hours. Well, I think at the point I listened, I only had about 10 hours left. So I went, okay, I better listen again. You know me and my listening over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So I listened to it again. And I went, wow, that's good. So then I played it again. As I walked around my house doing chores, I listened to it again. By the end of the day, I'd listened to it 6 times.
Wow.
And I recorded it and edited, like it was 30 minutes, and I edited out 10 minutes that was just kind of fluff where he was talking to his Facebook group saying, hey, I'll be with you in a moment.
Got it down to the meat. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I got it down to like 19 minutes. And then I put it in my Dropbox and I shared it with Rhonda. I said, hey, this may resonate with you. Let me know what you think. And she's like, oh my God, Wendy, that's so validated what I have been thinking about. Thank you for sharing it. But I thought 6 times I listened. Now here what is so cool to me. Each time I listened, yes, I heard the same words, but different words popped out to me. And even though it was all over the course of 10 hours, I didn't just keep hitting replay. It's like I listened to it and then I went about business and did stuff. And then I'd listen to it again and I went about life and I did stuff. And what I didn't realize until the day had come to an end, whatever I listened to the first time, whatever ideas really popped and stood out to me, I had integrated into my internal understanding. So by the time I listened to it again, I already understood, let's say, key point number 1. And now key point number 2 jumps out at me. And I was like, whoa. And I go about living life. And by the time I listened to it again, I had just integrated key point number 2 into my understanding.
Very nice.
Because I was fascinated how every single time I listened to it again, something else and different stood out to me. But the thing that stood out the previous time, this time when I listened to it, I went, oh yeah, I already got that. Like, wow. And it's not because I'm such a fast learner, but that's what immersion and repetition will do for you.
And your story also,
stick with something.
Your story also reminds me that it kind of brings to mind a thought that doesn't actually enter our thought process very often. But you, with your story there, and people can identify with it. I'm sure there are some people who have at some point in their life, played something repetitively. But through your story, you identified and really proved a basic concept, which is our point of attraction shifts. In fact, it can shift moment by moment. You shift each time that you listened, you shifted your point of attention just a little bit. And when you did, you got new information out of it, which means we're not stuck. Those of us who feel like we're stuck in one place, we're really not. We're shifting our attention all the time, constantly. And our perspective is always modifying itself, always shifting, always changing, adapting to whatever the latest stuff is that we're absorbing.
Well, I've often wondered when I come to the podcast and I'm talking with you and you say, hey, so what's new? Or what have you worked on this weekend kind of thing? And I start to tell you, because I'm a storyteller, I tend to like to tell things in sequence. Mm-hmm. Like, well, first I had this conversation with my inner being, and this is what my inner being provided for me. And then this happened, and then I went to the store, and I was there, this happened. And I like to say it in sequence.
Sure.
But I notice that oftentimes I jump back and forth. And I've often wondered, why do I do that? I mean, I know I'm a storyteller. Why am I not telling it in sequence?
Well, and you're not the only one. I think most people telling stories to their friends and family and so forth do that fairly regularly. That's a very common occurrence.
Well, and so I was listening to an Abraham CD over the weekend, and I was now on listen number 3.
Of course.
Which was so funny, because now that you point out how I always, listen to it 3 times, which I know I tell you I do. As soon as it finished the second time, I'm like, yep, okay, back, hit the tracks, go back to the beginning, because now it's time number 3. But anyway, so it was the third time I'm listening to this one particular story, and it was a person in the hot seat who was in essence asking, how did we all get here? How did the world begin? I mean, it was a really big question.
Okay.
And Abraham gave an answer that this time I was really able to understand. And they said, because we are ever changing, it's really not even possible to even go back and tell you what step 1 is. Because if you're already on step 943, not only can you not even remember the exactness of what step 1, 2, and 3 were, because they've morphed and they've changed, and you've integrated them so smoothly into your life that those things don't exist anymore as step 1, the way you did it back then. It doesn't even exist because it has changed. It's now a different creation. And I understood that on a level I never had before, that you can't ever go back to any, quote, original incident, event, whatever. You can't ever remember it exactly because who you are has changed. And so how you retell it and how you interpret it will change based on who you've now become. And that understanding made me recognize when I make shifts in my personal life, the reason I can't remember things in the sequence and order they came in is because all of those things aren't the same as they once were, not even in my memory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how about that?
Which is why over the weekend, because I had this experience of getting so many resources of validations, insights, new information, new awarenesses, I had so many in such a short period of time. It felt like a relief to be able to say to somebody who I had shared it with, I can't even tell you where I got all this stuff from. I just know here's where I am. Mm-hmm. And the most relevant thing is where I am now. and going backward doesn't serve a whole heck of a lot of purpose. I mean, some people want to know, well, how did you do it? But you know what? You can't ever even tell that
Not
in an
completely.
exact way, because how it happened, those steps don't exist anymore.
Which is
They
kind
don't.
of it's a reassuring thought, really, especially in the context of the section of the book that we're looking at today. Because we're actually at the end of part 4, The Art of Allowing, and this last section is entitled, I Will Never Get It Wrong or Done. So
Let's read that.
I mean, that's like right in the wheelhouse of where you are talking right now. So yeah,
absolutely.
Let me read it, and then you can just take it away, okay?
That's right.
So it says, when we say that from your non-physical perspective, from the perspective of that which you were even before you became focused in this physical body, that it was your intent to become an allower and to understand the art of allowing, well, it is so. What we want you to understand is that you never get it completed. You are not like a table that is imagined, then created, and then is finished. You are continually in the state of becoming. You are in the process of growth eternally. But you are always that which you are in this moment. You want to understand the laws of the universe so well that you become at one with them. You want to understand how it is that things come to you so that you do not feel like a victim or vulnerable to the whims of others swinging their arms. That's what we talked about last week. It is hard for you to understand these things when you are in the middle of what seems to be two worlds. The world that you created before you understood these things that we have talked about here, and the world that you are in the process of creating now that you are understanding more clearly. And so some of the things that are in your experience, because of the pre-paving or pre-thinking of your past, do not fit very well with what you now want. And so we know there is a little bit of discomfort as you are in this transitional stage, but there will be less and less and less discomfort as you are clearer and clearer and clearer about what you want. Much of the clutter of past momentum is now moving from your experience. When you are in the state of positive emotion and considering only what you are doing or thinking or speaking, you are allowing yourself. When you are in the state of positive emotion regarding your view into another's experience, you are allowing another. It is that simple. And so you cannot have negative emotion about yourself and be in the state of allowing yourself. To be an allower is to be one who feels positive emotion, which means that you must control what you are giving your attention to. It does not mean that you get everything in your world whipped into shape so that everything and everyone is just the way you want it to be. It means that you are able to see and therefore solicit forth from the universe, from your world, and from your friends that which is in harmony with you, while you let the other parts go unnoticed by you, therefore unattracted by you, and therefore not invited by you. That is allowing, you see. And we will tell you, friends, allowing is the most glorious state of being you will ever achieve on a long, ongoing basis. For once you are an allower, you are spiraling upward and upward. For there is no negative emotion to balance you out and bring you down. There is no backward swing of the pendulum. You are forever and gloriously moving forward and upward.
I love that. You are forever gloriously moving forward and upward.
Good phrase.
You know, I've spent a lifetime, Walt, going through one emotional shift after another. It's not like this is new to me. I've been doing this probably since I was 15. It's changed what it's called, but I've been working on this kind of personal development for a very long time. And I will tell you, so often I will say to myself, I feel a change coming, or I feel like I'm in a state of flux, a positive one, or I feel changes. I feel different. I feel improvement. Wow, this is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so amazed. This feels wonderful. I love the direction I'm going. I've been using those same words for decades.
Uh-huh.
But for decades, it's been accurate because we're always in a state of forward motion. We're always in a state of moving upward.
Which is
that's my
funny.
intent.
That is just plain funny because usually the word state means unchanging and motion is far from unchanging.
But you know, law of attraction and the word momentum, Abraham says, are synonymous. I mean, think about that. Momentum and law of attraction, they're the same thing.
Mm.
So law of attraction operates in our life 24/7, whether we know it or not, whether we believe in it or not, which means there's some level of momentum that is in a continual state of motion. I mean, we're all a mixed bag of different energies. So we have momentum on different subjects that are all happening simultaneously. But everything's in some level or state of momentum, either moving towards what you want or moving toward what you don't want. But there's always momentum going on.
It's an interesting concept because what you're really suggesting is that what we're really trying to do is to decide which direction we want our momentum to go in.
Yep. Because it's always in motion. There's always motion going on. You know, and back to the comment you made earlier about, you know, we think we're not changing. All there is change.
That's true.
You know, atoms are constantly moving. So even if we think this thing appears static in front of us, you know, call it a table, a chair, an object, if you get down to the molecular level, it's in constant motion. Now, it may be beyond our eyeballs' ability to recognize, but it's in motion. There is nothing that is truly static.
Well, that's one of the things that fascinates me about the teachings of quantum physics, because one of those teachings, which kind of has been co-opted by law of attraction thinking, is the idea that a table is a table because a bunch of us decide, yes, that's going to be a table, and so it continues to be a table. And in fact, Abraham in that little section talked about how once the table is finished, it's finished. But interestingly enough, like you said, everything's in motion in it. If you zoom in closely, it's not just static. It's constantly in motion, which means that table is constantly being reinforced as a table by us. That's mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
It's kind of crazy.
And the more we focus on, let's say, our past, the part of our past we don't like, the more we're actually creating those circumstances in our present and future. Because it already happened in the past, it's done. And yet, it's always changing. So even that which we think is done from the past can't stand on its own as static. It's constantly morphing and changing. Our memory is plastic. Our memory is constantly changing. Everything we think about is constantly changing. Even when we think it's the same, it is actually different. It's just that we don't recognize the difference between the last time we thought it and this time we think it.
So we've identified the second part of the title of this subsection pretty well. I will never get it wrong or done. So the done part, we've got that part pretty well discussed. But what about the wrong part? I will never get it wrong. How do you see that fitting into what we're talking about?
Well, two things I can think of. One, because in every circumstance that we consider wrong or bad or unpleasant, inherently lives within it the resolution, the rightness, the goodness. So it's never completely wrong because within it is the inherent rightness. And we never get it wrong, or it's like we have our whole life and many lifetimes later to do it again. We can keep doing it again. I mean, there are like unlimited do-overs.
I think I'd also want to add the idea that you really can't get it wrong. Even if you end up doing something or producing something or thinking something or even just feeling something that doesn't feel right to you or think right or just doesn't seem right to you, doesn't mean you got it wrong. It just means, like Thomas Edison, you found yet another way not to do it what you wanted to do.
Yeah, you got a result you weren't looking for,
yeah.
But you still got a result, and you can do it again.
Yeah.
And you can do it again. And, you know, every time Edison or anybody, you know, did it again, I don't believe they literally did it exactly the same again.
Right.
They modified how they did it.
He was meticulous about that. I mean, always is a different thread for his filament for his light bulb, and each one kept burning out, burning out, burning out, burning out. He just kept trying new filaments.
Well, and they might have said you can never get it wrong, but wrong, if you expand that word, it's like if you can never say you're done just because you didn't get the result that you didn't want, because you can always try it again and get a different result. Now, I can hear in the minds of individuals saying, now, wait a minute, I went after this job, I didn't get it. That's doneness to me. Now, I used to think that way. And I've now broadened my scope, like, well, but my true essence was looking for a job that I felt fulfilled in and that paid me an amount of money that felt comfortable to me. So, yeah, that job I didn't get. And if we go spiral back to the story I've told numerous times, when I wanted to be a bank teller and that door got slammed shut, it felt done to me.
Yeah.
And yet, because I didn't get the result that I wanted, it caused me to rethink, well, what else is possible? And long story short, I ended up becoming a costume designer because I didn't become a bank teller. And being a costume designer was truly one of the most satisfying, emotionally, intellectually, and creatively stimulating and satisfying. I mean, it was the most wonderful career that I never planned to have.
Sure.
Because I didn't plan for it. I didn't even know about it. I didn't even know that what I was doing as a freelance costume designer, I didn't know on career day when I was in junior high that such a career existed.
Yeah, that's usually not one of the top 10 that they bring in, is it? No.
No. But, I knew what a bank teller was, and that seemed fun. So I went after that, but the door got slammed shut, so that didn't happen. And so little by little, I made micro adjustments to what was possible, and what was I willing to do, and what questions was I willing to ask, and who was I willing to talk to. And before I knew it, I became a costume designer. Now, I had some skills. I was already a pattern maker, already a couture seamstress. I had those from my degree from becoming a fashion designer that I went to school for. But I never planned on using that for a career. That was just my hobby, and so it never is done, because you can always come up with a new question. There's always a new action to be taken, and you never know what direction something can take you in until you land in a place that you go, ooh, now this is good.
That's true.
And
yeah,
you know
in fact,
what?
I was actually... Oh, go ahead.
Even after 15 years of being a costume designer, and it was so fulfilling, that didn't last forever.
No.
And then I went, well, that felt ended. Like I didn't want to do that one anymore. So what else is possible? I landed, as an executive assistant. And then I went, okay, well, I'm feeling done with that. What else is possible?
What's next, right?
And now I'm working on my empire.
There you go. Yeah. I was having a conversation today with one of our managers of the gardening business. And in the conversation, I told a story that I've never told here on the podcast. It just never really occurred to me to tell it. But there was a time where I was trying to shift careers, and I figured, maybe I'll try to be like a project manager, because I know I'm good at it. I know it's something I would know how to do and all that sort of thing. So I started, at that point, searching around, doing the jobs boards and so forth, looking for project manager jobs. I applied to a whole bunch of them. Never got so much as an interview. I mean, we're not even talking close to getting a position. I was never considered. And I think it was mainly because I had never actually studied using the various particular software systems that they use nowadays for project manager. And they're always looking for somebody who's skilled with X software for project management. And I didn't have any of that. I mean, I just knew how to manage stuff. So I kind of just, dismissed it like, oh, well, that's not really for me. Well, what do I find myself doing now? Working with Louise's company, I'm basically managing a project of building a new system for how the company is going to do its basic day-to-day operations. I'm being a project manager. I wasn't hired for it. I just now am. That's all. It kind of fell that way. Was it the way I planned to do it? Absolutely not. Not even close.
I really have always believed that everything we ever learn in life can be utilized somewhere in our life. We don't always know where it's going to land, but I believe, like everything I've ever learned, is preparing me for my empire. Everything.
I think it's true. And it's cool, too, because that means that even when stuff happens or where you explore stuff and it doesn't seem to be related, we don't have to know what the relationship is. The universe takes care of that part. That's where we get serendipities from and synchronicities.
I mean, I love knowing that the universe is providing everything that we need. And, you know, I was the biggest doer and getting in the way of law of attraction because I kept trying to control what would come to me and how things had to be done. And today, as I went back to work, you know, it's the first time in a week I've been looking at, you know, I'm looking at my work inbox, and my LinkedIn address is my day job address. And so I was seeing a bunch of different LinkedIn things that happened during the week. And one of them, somebody who wanted to connect with me, I read it and I went, I wonder if this person could be somebody that I could delegate to. I mean, I was kind of reading just what she had on LinkedIn, and I went, yeah, I'm looking for that skill. Yeah, I'm looking for that skill. Yeah, I'm looking for that skill. I went, that's pretty interesting. And I'm let's just say the jury's out right now. Like, it's one that I'm putting on the side. Like, I don't want to make a decision, yes or no right now. But what I will say is that it never dawned on me that somebody could, let's just say innocently, on the appearance, an innocent connection where someone says, hey, it looks like we have some things in common. Do you want to connect on LinkedIn? That could be my next major connection. That could be the person I delegate to. That person can go, oh my God, you're a coach. I would love to exchange what I have for what you have. Could be awesome.
Sure.
I mean, my next business partner could be there. But I mean, I'm building an empire. I need more than just one person. There could be somebody on this call that is, or on this podcast, that they're listening and they're like, well, I have a skill, but I have no idea if that's anything Wendy would be interested in. Call me. Let's find out.
Good thing to do. Yeah. By the way, before we forget about that, for, you know, somebody wants to call you up. Where do they call you? I mean, I assume they go to the website because that's what you always give out.
Yeah. I mean, the best way to find me is through wendydillard.com. My phone number and my email on there, and that's how people contact me all the time. Pick up the phone, call me. If it's not a great time, I'll let you know and we'll schedule something. Otherwise, shoot me an email, you know. But either way, if you have something to offer me and want it in exchange for coaching, that could be a possibility. Or if you're just looking for coaching, cool, give me a call.
And we know the gateway's open. You keep talking about that. You're just wide open right now, you know, ready to receive. So it's time to receive, right?
Yeah. And you know what? I totally feel that what I have to offer, which is helping people transform their life in lightning speed, record time, that's the gift that I have to offer. And I get it now. It's like, I would be remiss if I didn't tell people I have that available. And I believe in what I do. I know you can tell that from what I say, but it's like, I believe in what I do and I believe it makes a difference. And I'm wanting to have enough clientele so that I can exit my day job so I can spend more time doing this thing that makes a difference, not only for me, but for others. I want to transform the world one person at a time, because I know when I help a person transform who they are, they go out into the world and they are more powerful than ever before. And then the things that are meaningful to them or to you, you can now put your impact on the world. And that's how we spread goodwill, joy, happiness, appreciation, and love.
Well, there's a real happy way to end the show. I mean, you know how much I like having the swoop ending, right? That's a really nice ending right there. You know, so we'll just draw to close on that. We won't even comment anymore. That was great. But Wendy, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing the conversation tomorrow. That is, if you're not booked up to the gills, that's always possible.
If I'm booked to the gills, I will take a break from 4 p.m. Eastern until 5 so I can come back on this podcast and talk with you.
That's all I wanted to hear. So with that in mind, we hope that you'll join us next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye for now.